Am I the a-hole for wanting to move on with my life? The backstory is important to set the stage of everything. I already know after everything I probably should seek out some counseling. Anyway, here is the backstory. Keep in mind this is not all the problems we had throughout our marriage, and I use the term my son in here, but he our biological child. Also for reference, my ex is my ex-wife. To start out, our marriage has been riddled with constant threats of her telling me she would divorce me if I didn't do things she wanted. At one point she threatened to divorce me and take our son if I did not stay in the military. My only option was to leave military service due to my body breaking down. If I did not leave when I did, I would not be able to walk today. I am 100% disabled from my military service. Then, moving on to the gambling addiction she suffered. Many times she told me she would divorce and leave me if I did not give her money to go gambling. It would lead to huge arguments and the constant threats I just mentioned. Eventually I had to call her bluff and refuse to give her any more money. It was pay bills or give in to her. I chose to pay bills. Then the last thing I will speak about, but not the last issue, was her constant need to shop. Keep in mind I am not rich and never have been. I live a comfortable life and I am happy with that. However, she always wanted to shop as a rich man's wife but had a poor man's budget. There were numerous times when I was worried we would not make it financially due to her shopping. In the end, we had so many arguments because she refused to stop shopping. I have told her several times before and after the divorce that she has some kind of hole or emptiness inside of her that she is constantly trying to fill with her addictions. Shopping, gambling, drinking, etc. I have also told her on several occasions that she needed to seek professional help for these. From everything I have read and heard about, you cannot and it is pointless to get help for someone unless they themselves are ready to seek it out. So, my urging for professional help went unanswered. Now I bring these addictions up for a reason. As you will read, she eventually started cheating. I very quickly recognized this as the next evolution of addiction for her. Please read on for more details if you are interested. Back in late 2022, my then wife and I had been married for about 19.5 years. She had been mad at me for no reason that I could figure out, for about 2 to 3 months constantly. I asked her so many times why she was mad at me, but she simply would not communicate with me. So eventually, I caught her at a hotel when she was supposed to be at work and she admitted to sleeping with another man when she was caught. After the heated, "How could you? Why?" and the various other upset and heated conversations that ensue because of a betrayal like this, she finally admitted she had been talking with him for about 7 months. After all the extensive talking, we discussed going to marriage counseling and eventually decided to work on things ourselves. I suspected this was going to develop into a new addiction for her, but as usual I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. Everything got to a point to where I forgave her. Fast forward 3 months and I caught her again, not at a hotel but out and about, and yet again she was with the same man. She said I cannot stop talking to him. At this point I was fed up with it, and she encouraged me by telling me to just file for divorce. So I did. Now during the process we are living in the same household but in different rooms. At the beginning of it all, I told her I am keeping the house, which will be important shortly. I am filing for custody of our son. I was up front and open about everything. So during the process, she had to go get some paperwork notarized and sent to my lawyer which involved the deed to the house. She asked me to go with her, so I agreed. I drove her to the notary. Then when we are there, she asked me, "What is this paperwork for?" I explained to her that it is the document the lawyer needs to go with the divorce papers that give the house to me. She said she does not feel comfortable signing the documents. I told her that was fine if she doesn't. You have 3 options: 1, sign the paperwork and get it notarized, or 2, get a lawyer, we go to court and fight it out that way, and it will cost both of us more money because court battles always cost more. Which at this point she states, I can't afford a lawyer. Then I continue, or 3, don't do anything and I will still go to court and let the judge decide. But you being without a lawyer will more than likely be an issue for you. So, then I told her, now you need to decide. She decided to just sign the paperwork and get it notarized. As I said before, the important part about me keeping the house, here it is. The whole time before during the divorce process, I would hear at least 3 times a week from her, "Sell the house. I want to move on. Sell the house." I would always tell her I am not selling the house. I want to make sure our son always has a stable home. I also do not want to move back into a more expensive apartment and pay more to get less space. Needless to say, my 3-bedroom house is about half the price of apartments in my area. So, she would get mad at me for refusing to sell the house. So, being this was early 2023, the divorce papers were sent to both of our emails to be digitally signed. I read over the papers and signed them without issue. She asked me, "What do they say?" I said, "You need to read them." She said, "I don't want to read them. Just tell me what they say." So I told her, "They say I am keeping the house, our son will be living here, Everything that was community property with the house stays with the house and you keep all your belongings. There is no child support associated in the divorce papers and it states visitation rights if we live in the same city or if we live in different cities or states. The only thing she asked for which I agreed to is that I keep paying for her car until it was paid off. Not to mention I also pay full coverage insurance on her vehicle which I am not required to cover the insurance. I do just to make sure I am not stuck paying for a car if she totals it because my name is on the title along with hers. So I did explain to her that was in the divorce papers. It also lays out for medical or dental coverage who pays for what, just the standard divorce agreement for the most part. Again, after hearing all of this, she again says she doesn't want to sign the papers. She wasn't happy about what was in them. So, again I inform her of her options. Sign the papers, get a lawyer, or don't do anything and I go to court and let the judge decide. So, she eventually signed them. A court date is set. I let her know when the date is. She asks if she has to be there and I tell her according to my lawyer only one person needs to be there and it is done virtually. She said okay, that she was not going to go. I said that's fine, I will be going either way. Court date came, I showed up, judge saw everything was signed without being contested, and signed off on it. So fast forward 2+ years after the divorce. My ex-wife is still living here in my house. It was never really discussed that she would move out. She is still staying in the third room of the house, and I just try to move on with my life, focusing mostly on raising my son. I furnish everything, and my ex-wife has not and still to this day does not contribute a single penny to the household, even though she freely uses all the resources. Nothing for electricity, water, rent, groceries, nothing. So it is now mid-2025, and she is still here. I figured she would be tired of keeping her life on hold and want to move on by now. She still has not. I have tried talking to date some, but it always fails after the first date or two because living arrangements always comes up. Once the person finds out my ex-wife is still living in my house, they head for this hills. So, the living arrangements makes dating impossible. So, this entire 2+ years since the divorce was final my ex-wife has been constantly telling me to sell the house so she can move out and on with her life. I will ask her what me selling the house has to do with that. Turns out she thinks she would be getting half of any money that was made from selling the house. I have been telling her since the divorce that she would not get any of the money if I ever sold the house because the house is mine. So now she finally decides to read the divorce papers. Gets extremely upset because it is finally sinking in that she no longer has rights to the house. I work nights and about 2 to 5 times a week my ex-wife will get drunk and call me while I am at work trying to have a drunken conversation with me. This has been taking place the entire time we have been divorced. I do not drink, and I do not like talking to people when they have been drinking. So when I refuse to have any type of discussion with her in this state, she starts insulting and berating me. She is trying to get me to argue with her. The first few times early on I let myself fall into this trap, but I have since learned to just not engage. Needless to say, since I filed for divorce until this day my life has been a living nightmare. My son is a teenager, and I honestly do not know how much of why we divorced he knows. The subject has never come up. I have done my best to shield him from as much of it as I can. However, last week I was off work and I was in the kitchen making some tea and my son in the very next room. Luckily there was a wall between the kitchen and the room he was in so he could not see anything but he could hear if he was paying attention. Anyway, my ex-wife came in the kitchen and she had been drinking again. I was standing about 4 feet from where she was. I turned around when she started talking to me so I could face her. She was trying to ask me numerous questions about the divorce papers and the house, and because I refused to engage she was getting more and more upset. There was a sharp knife in the dish drainer she was standing next to. She picked it up and started swinging it around in my direction. I asked her to please stop swinging the knife around. She said, I am not swinging it around, but she was. I then decided to just walk into the room and sit on a chair next to my son while he was on his computer. I figured this might cause her to disengage from trying to talk to me, and hopefully get her to stop swinging the knife around. She did put the knife down in the kitchen, but she quickly followed and kept trying to get me to engage so she could argue with her. After about 5 minutes of this, I eventually just grabbed my car keys and went for a drive. About 30 minutes later I tried to call my son but apparently she took his phone and I could not reach him. Which once I got home I confirmed with my son that she did in fact take his phone to prevent me from calling him. Now I am just wanting to move on with my life entirely without my ex-wife living in my house. She has had over 2 years to try to save money. If for some reason she does not have enough money saved, she does have a cousin that lived 2 hours away, an aunt that lives 3 hours away, another cousin that lives in Virginia or somewhere around there, another in California, and another that lives in Hawaii. All of her cousins and her were raised together and are really close. Not to mention she has numerous friends in the area. So, I feel like she has lots of options. Me, on the other hand, I have no grandparents or parents since they are all deceased. I have one sibling living about 3 hours away and we have not spoken in almost 10 years. I have another sibling that is in jail. I have just reconnected with my last sibling after 8 years of not speaking. I don't even remember why, but doesn't have the means to help for any reason if I needed help. I have some work friends, but no one I would call if I really needed help. Essentially, I am on my own, and it has been this way almost my entire adult life. So, I have always had to rely on just myself for everything, plus it doesn't help I am not really a sociable person. I would prefer to stay home than go out to clubs or parties, etc. She keeps giving me a sob story of how she has no one to help her, how she has no money. She makes just as much if not a little more than I do. She has recently told me she asked her family if she could move in with them, and they told her that they would have to talk to their husbands. I told her they didn't say no. She says that is basically the same thing for them. I am ready to start dating and enjoy life, but with her living here, I feel like I am in a nightmare. I know I learned 2 valuable lessons: never give a second chance when it comes to cheating, cut ties and move on, and the second is never live with an ex, it is horrible. So am I the a-hole for wanting my ex-wife to move out so I can move on with my life? If this story kept you hooked, give it a like, share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more.